Hello, friends. Come in, come in, sit down, take a deep breath. My name is Miss Carol. I am a former career teacher, now here with you, sharing practical self-love tools. In this video, I want to talk about why focusing on our problems only makes them bigger and the importance of our emotions. Our problems are designed uniquely for us because we are unique, and they have the capacity, when we choose, to lead us into our most healed and conscious selves. Our problems are never what we think they are about. I am originally from Southern California, and I lived in LA for many, many years. And usually when you say you're from California, people think of lots of things, but usually most of the time people think about traffic. And that is true. I promise you, whatever you think the traffic is in Los Angeles, it's worse than what you think it is. And so I spent many, many hours stuck in Southern California traffic. And one of the things that I did was listen to NPR. And at the time, I thought that listening to NPR, listening to the news, was the socially correct thing to do. But after hours and hours and hours of listening to the news, what began to develop was this rage that existed within me, this unbridled rage that I felt towards our society, towards other humans. And at the time, I really didn't know what to do about it, because I often found myself in an emotional loop of, I would feel a feeling, I would focus on a problem, the feeling would intensify, I would then the focus on the problem would intensify, and on and on and on it would go. And so somewhere along the line, I had to stop. I had to become aware what I was doing to myself, and I had to stop making other people responsible for the way that I felt. And we do this all the time. It is not an easy thing to do, to take accountability for our feelings, for our emotions and our thoughts, but it's required, because nobody is responsible for how we feel, no matter how easy that might make our lives. It is just about what we choose to focus on and how adaptable we are to accepting responsibility for our emotions. Because honestly, the thing that really helped me shift from me being aware of listening to NPR too much and how it was turning me into a liberal a-hole was, I had this thought one day, and I was like, two people arguing on the street, from the outside, is there any way to really tell who's on the good side or who's on the bad side? Is there any way to tell who's the crazy person and who's the lunatic? No, not really. They both come from the same place. They're both coming from the place that goes like this, that are fighting each other. And that really was something that humbled me, because in my mind, I thought I was listening to this liberal news to be a well-informed person, to know what was going on in the world, and those things are important. But when you use them to justify your rightness of your emotions, that's when you get caught in these emotional loops, and that's when our problems become bigger and bigger and bigger because of the emotion that we attach to them. That's how we stay stuck, finding our way out of our emotional loops, or put another way, shifting our perception to perspective, is what our life is all about. Feelings are like raindrops. They come from nowhere, they come from everywhere, and it's all about how we choose to focus on them, what we choose to be aware of at any particular moment. And when we find ourselves in these emotional loops, depending on how much energy we have put into them, it can be very hard to then pull ourselves out of it. But the awareness is the first key. And What's going to make you more aware is to breathe. Anytime you find yourself in an emotional loop, 3 cleansing breaths that takes you right back to where you are here and now. And then you can decide, okay, I have this problem. Is there anything I can do about it right here, right now? If there is, go ahead and do something. But if there's not, what is my focusing on it doing to me? How is that helping me? Is this helping me to become a more compassionate person? Is this helping me to become a more aware, forgiving, loving person? Is this helping me to be a better sister? Is this helping me to be a better friend, a better partner? You can only answer those questions for yourself. And when we are in that emotional loop of focusing on our problems and intensifying our emotions, that's when we really need something physical, something tangible to attach ourselves to so it can literally pull us out. Think of it like a dog on a leash that hasn't been trained. You know, if you haven't trained that dog is going to pull you, and next thing you know, you might be flat on the ground. So what is something practical that you can do to become aware of when you are in this emotional loop? Well, something that I did and which worked for many years, which I would recommend, is changing the screensaver on your phone. I had a picture of the Earth from NASA for many years as a screensaver on my phone, as a reminder, as a physical reminder for myself to put my perception into perspective. Because when you look at the Earth from that view, it's really hard to really attach yourself to these emotions that, again, come and go like raindrops. Is it really that serious? Is there anything that I can do about this right here, right now? What am I choosing not to focus on by focusing on this thing? But that can be extremely challenging when we have years and years of practice. It's like we become calloused. We allow our problems to become calloused because we apply emotion to them. And then it's like another level of cement. And then it's like another level of cement. The problems only get more strong because of the intensity of the emotion that we attach to them. You know, our emotions, our energetic output, we are always a representation of that. We can never detach ourselves from that. That's why we don't get the things that we want. And I believe it was Oprah who said, we get the things that we believe. We can never detach ourselves from the things that we believe. That's why fake it till you make it does not work, because our higher consciousness is always listening. You know, it's kind of like a microphone that we have on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that we can never turn off. Our consciousness is always listening. Oh, you're focusing on a problem? You're focusing on a negative problem? You're focusing on a negative emotion? Let me give you more of that. Oh, you're focusing on this? Let me give you more of that, because that's what you say you want, right? This problem is what you're communicating to me is what you want, right? The universe is not here to decipher between what's good and what's bad. It doesn't have that capacity. It just is what it is. We tend to place our humanly conditions on our higher consciousness because that makes it make sense for us. But something that grand, something that abundant is really out of our scope of comprehension. We all have had moments of clarity. We've all had that friend that has said that thing, or that song that has come on right at the right time. Or, I remember years ago when I was bartending, I had a customer come to the bar who was, not really obnoxious, and I was focused on her so intensely and how obnoxious and how uncomfortable she was making me, and she was leaning back in her chair, and lo and behold, she slipped back and fell. And I felt so bad because I was like, oh my gosh, did I just make this girl fall? Oh my gosh, is she okay? What we focus on is, always present. We cannot run from it. Our emotions are designed to represent to us how aligned are we with the life that we claim we want. But we have to be curious. And we cannot go from blind rage to euphoric bliss. That's like having a balloon that you just pop. We can't do that. Our emotions exist on a spectrum. So if you find yourself on one end of the spectrum negatively, you're in that negative loop, going from rage to frustration, resentment, then maybe going and down to loneliness is the equivalent of like easing air out of the balloon little by little by little. And when that emotional shift from perception to perspective happens, are those moments of clarity? Is that curiosity? Why am I feeling this? What is this bringing up for me? Am I being my most best self in this way? How can I be of service to someone else? And that doesn't have to be carrying somebody's groceries home. It could be simply waving at somebody. It could be simply saying hello to someone. It could be simply asking how somebody's day was, and legitimately being open to receiving whatever it is they have to tell you. That's how you shift from one perception into another, into the perception of compassion, into the perception of acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude. It exists on a spectrum. We cannot just go from one to the other. There are 8 billion people on this earth. And I've had so many jobs. I worked at the airport, and I used to tell people all the time when I worked at the airport who would come to me with one of their problems, I would literally have them pan around, and I would say, ma'am or sir, this airport is full of other people. I know that this issue, this problem feels so immediate and so urgent to you right now, but there are other people in this airport who have the exact same feeling, that their problem, that their issue is of the most urgent and of the most importance. We are all here collectively. And the more we remove ourselves from our emotions, the more we can gently show ourselves kindness and accept whatever condition, whatever problem or is happening at that moment. But it is a practice. Deep breathe. Give yourself tangible representations of shifting perception to perspective. Maybe it's a song you listen to. Maybe it's petting your cat. Maybe it's, working out. Whatever it is that will lead you to one end of the emotional spectrum to the other, because it is there. Your negative emotions are one side of the coin. Your positive emotions are on the other side of the coin. I'm so thankful and proud of the work that you're doing. You are courageously showing up to be aware and take responsibility for your life. And I am proud as a fellow accountable person that we can meet here. Please, if you feel called, share your experience of the problems that you are facing. What are you struggling to, what emotional loop are you struggling to come out of? I would love to read them. I would love to comment on them. Check out this next video, and I will see you next time, my friends. Be well.